stay standing as it is our last time this season to sing our Faith in Action tune, Middle of Nowhere. You memorized it by now, right? Well, if not, we got the lyrics for you up on the screens. We are very much in the middle of nowhere right now, living the life of uncertainty. At least that's how I feel. Please join us in singing. I am right here in the middle of nowhere, greeting every moment with an open heart, certain of nothing and embracing it all. With love and compassion, I make a start. And I am right here in the middle of nowhere, greeting every moment with an open mind, watching my thoughts rise and passing away, freeing my soul from the storyline. And I am right here in the middle of nowhere, greeting every moment with open arms, doing all I can to shine some light in my world. Caring and kindness will do no harm. Like sunlight dances on water, like a tree bends in the breeze, I'll live my life beautifully, bringing joy and peace. Like sunlight dances on water, like a tree bends in the breeze, I'll live my life beautifully. Bringing joy and peace. One more hand for Paula. Such a wonderful song.
As we prepare for our meditation, I invite you to read along with me our vision statement. Spiritual Life Center is a loving, vibrant family that welcomes home all people and accepts everyone, no exceptions. Weaving ancient spiritual traditions with emerging wisdom, we cultivate a spiritual deepening with the divine, each other, and our planet.
And now, in preparation for meditation, I invite you to take a nice deep breath and settle into your seat. May all beings know love. May all beings know love. May all beings know peace. May all beings know love. May all beings know peace.
all beings know love. May all beings know peace. As we open to the activity of spirit, take a breath and invite the feeling of love to envelop your heart. Take another breath and invite the quiet peace to fill your heart. Take in this quiet feeling of love and peace. You are safe as we move into this time of imagination. See if you can yourself walking along your path. It might look like a dirt path or a wide superhighway. Maybe it's made of cobblestone or covered with green new grass. But as you walk, you feel safe and secure because you know that this is your path. It is right and good, and you carry love and peace in your heart. All is well. After you have walked a bit, you come to a bridge. This bridge spans a noisy river. It rumbles over rocks, kicking up white water. You look at the river, you look at the bridge. It looks newly built, so you put one foot on the bridge to test it. It seems solid. So with confidence, you begin your trek across the wild river. After a few steps, though, something odd begins to happen. As you step forward, the bridge changes. The plank under your foot slowly dissolves. Your hind foot is still secure, but as you look back, the planks behind you have also dissolved. You stand on one foot, supported between empty space. This is rather unexpected, but you do not panic. Rather, take a deep breath and recall the feeling of love and peace that you started with. In faith, you put your foot down on what seems like open air, and you don't fall. You take another step into nothing. Your right hand begins to tingle and vibrate a little bit. A red and white orb sparkles just at the end of your hand. You take another step, and your left hand begins to tingle. A violet and white orb sparkles in the air right at the tip of your fingers. With the third step, each orb slowly resolves into the shape of a being. And these beings are holding your hands, supporting you. You are walking on air with the help of the angel of love and the angel of peace. You make progress. You walk across the bridge of air. As you reach solid ground, you notice that your feet still don't quite touch the ground. And then you gently, safely settle down and touch earth. These shining beings of the red and the violet, they stand in front of you now. They radiate love, the red of love, the violet of peace. And now reach out to your angels and take a moment to commune with them in the silence. As love and peace flow freely into your heart center, gratitude flows freely and abundantly from your whole being to these angels, the angels of love and peace. And you say to them, thank you, love. Thank you, peace. Thank you, God. And let's say that together. Thank you, love. Thank you, peace. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen.
Smile without a reason why. Love as if you were a child. Smile no matter what they tell you. Don't listen to a word they say, 'cause life is beautiful that way. Tears, a tidal wave of tears. Light that slowly disappears. Wait before you close the curtain. There's still another game to play, and life is beautiful that way. Here in his eyes forevermore, I will always be as close as you remember from before. Now that you're out there on your own, remember what is real and what we dream is love alone. Keep the laughter in your eyes. Soon, your long-awaited cry. We'll forget about our sorrow and think about a brighter day, 'cause life is beautiful that way. We'll forget about our sorrow and think about a brighter day, 'cause life is beautiful that way. There's still another game to play, and life is beautiful that way. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na.
There's still another game to play, and life is beautiful that way. Thank you, ladies. And we have our last week of our Faith in Action series to present an artist who will give their pictorial representation of this week's topic. And the two artists this week are Robert Benoit and Diana Mandela. I invite them to come forward to share their interpretation of this week's topic, making friends with groundlessness. I'm going to start out with Robert and what the words that he's come up with for this week. He writes, Shelley needs solid ground under her feet. When friends describe floating, crawling, or backstroking, Shelley's incompetence shames her, slams opportunity's door in her face. Doors keep the unwanted outside, the cold, wind, rain, insects, and other wildlife. They sometimes separate us from what we need and desire. For Shelley, floating in water is as horrifying as walking on the clouds. Sit fully in your shame, Shelley. A door will open in your ever-changing world. Inhale fully the sweetness of the present moment, its sorrows, its joys, and its fears. And this piece is entitled Shelley's Groundlessness. So thank you, Robert, for his work. And Diana Mandela has her work today, and she had asked me to do this in my best Forrest Gump impression. I only did it one time this morning, just my second go round. So here we go. I think let me get practice. Life is like a box of chocolate. Okay, there you go. We come to earth as a seed in a field. It rains and the roots sprout. The sun shines and the stalk begins to grow. Leaves begin to sprout on the stalk. They are shaped like hearts. They feed the new sunflower stalk. So, the more hearts, the better. The big flower begins to form with the color of the sun. In the center, a circle of seeds begin to take form. This is a good thing because the field needs more seeds made from the sun and rain. A strong stalk and many leaves make of hearts. And that's the truth. This piece is entitled, Life is Just a Field of Sunflowers. Thank you so much, Robert and Diana, for your pictorial representation for this last week of our Faith in Action series. Oh, Forrest Gump, I don't know how to work on that Forrest Gump impression. Well, welcome to the 6th week of our Faith in Action series, Living Beautifully. In this time of uncertainty and change. I think it's been a little change this week. It's change coming up. There's going to be some change in our impending leadership, and there's uncertainty as to what that means. You know, as I was sharing the earlier service, I often have thoughts about what I'm going to share sometimes a week or two in advance on a particular Sunday. And I was on a plane on Monday heading back to Sacramento, thinking about what I was going to say on Sunday today. And Tuesday, something happened. There was a slight surprise for many folks, to say the least. And I think that the universe was saying, okay, you all are taking this practice of being in the moment, accepting things as they are. Now I'm going to give you an opportunity to give you some advanced training. Because it's easy to practice, in our study groups and, we're amongst friends that we know. And also, this is nice. This is beautiful. Let's meditate a little bit. Let's be in the now. Let's accept what is. And so what happened Tuesday kind of changed what I was going to talk about today. Because it's an opportunity to really put into practice the principles that we've been teaching and studying about on an individual level and a collective level. Now, I have to say, most of the time I don't weigh in on anything that's anywhere near political. And I do this because I remember, I think it was 2004, I was in Paris, France, and my wife and I were in line getting ready to go see a movie. And there were some other Parisians around at the time, and there was some political stuff going on, the war in Iraq. And so they were kind of accosting us, or me, and was wondering how in the world we could do stuff like this and these political leaders that we have, and as if I was personally responsible. And I was sharing that, well, it all worked out, and somehow I gave some highfalutin spiritual response that this was a way to help us elevate ourselves on a collective basis all over the planet and blah, 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 blah. And so I somehow got out of that. But I came back, and I was sharing with, the congregation at the time, and about my experience, and I kind of made a joke about a particular political figure at that time. And most of the people got the joke, but there's a few who did not like it. They were really behind this person full-fledged. And so it took me a while to kind of extricate myself from that situation. So I felt, I won't touch that subject again. But we cannot deny that this election is on a lot of people's minds. It's kind of, if we read this work and Pema says, take that 90 seconds and just to be totally with whatever's going on and then move forward. Well, it's going to take a lot more than 90 seconds for most of us. But I believe that there are spiritual implications that has nothing to do with politics at all. Because I often say that all the challenges that we have, everything that comes up in our life that kind of buffet against us, all of our challenges may be mental, they may be emotional, they may be physical, but the solutions and the addressing them always comes from a spiritual perspective. But this feels a little different. For me, it feels a little different from anything I've experienced in my own lifetime. Someone said that from their perspective, there hasn't been a sense of division since the Civil War. I thought that might be a little bit overdramatic. But only time will tell as we look back over the experience we're going through right now. But I say that no doubt that what we're experiencing is a byproduct and is an outpicturing of what the world is going through at this moment. I believe we're going through one of the most significant paradigm shifts in contemporary history. We're getting impacted with significant changes, rapid changes in technology. The world is getting smaller. The global economy is even more powerful now than it ever has been. The interconnectedness is very intense. And it's spilling over into every aspect of life, even our politics. So there's lots of uncertainty. So how appropriate it is for us to be studying this text of how to live beautifully in this time of uncertainty and change. It's like the universe has served us up an opportunity to really practice on a deep level. Specifically, this is given for Spiritual Life Center. with an opportunity to apply the teachings beyond the walls of our community, which is always easy to do, as I like to say. Someone asked me, how do we get on the other side of change? And I say, you don't. Something is always changing, because stuff is always coming up. It never ends. And what we want to do as we talk about this idea of making friends with groundlessness is really, how can we befriend the change? How can we embrace the change? And Pema reminds us that one of the tenets of this work is to accept the world as it is. And of course, as I was saying during this series, it doesn't mean that we indulge in the facts or we acquiesce to them or we give up to whatever's going on. We just acknowledge what is. Because all in the Buddhist teachings reminds us that all suffering is a result of railing against what is happening in the moment, trying to make the moment different than what it is. But at the same time, we don't deny the challenges and the concerns that have erupted during this presidential campaign and the election experience. And we're not saying in any way, shape, or form there's nothing we can do about it. In the world of appearances, there are a lot of things that are showing up. People are concerned. Like I said, I've been getting calls and emails, friends I'm knowing that over the years just been connecting with me. And some people are concerned about the climate change and believe the progress that the world is taking to move in this direction will somehow be reversed. And Latinos and the LGBT community and immigrants somehow feel at risk. Children of immigrants are fearful of being separated from their families, taunted by their classmates about being deported. Bigotry has seemingly emboldened. I even got an invitation from the Ku Klux Klan to attend a rally December 4th, 2016. They must not know who I am. But understand that this energy is not new. I'll have to see if I can get me a costume so I can show up. I have not sent down my RSVP yet. We'll have to see. But the energy is not new. There was someone yelling out some racial epithets in Sacramento the other day as I was coming out of the store, and I thought I was in Mississippi in 1956. So we're not blind to the facts in the world of appearances and the implications of the appearances that are taking place. But we accept what is in the state of affairs that's going on right now. I was writing about this on Friday, my Friday message, and I say that all the things that we see happening seemingly to us or around us can be seen from a spiritual perspective. And I think what is rising up is nothing more than evolutionary triggers to tell us what we need to address, to tell us what we need to heal, to tell us what we need to deal with. And just as on our individual lives, if we have stuff going on, we may go to a therapist or a psychologist, and they will tell us that we need to bring some of that stuff, the shadow self, out in order to be surfaced, in order for us to deal with it and to deal with it in a compassionate way. And the Pema relates the second commitment in our practice that I think I talked about in the third week when she talked about being candidates for compassion. And she may have had this phrase that says it means holding a diversity party in our living room all day, every day, until the end of time. To help us go beyond our comfort zone so we can continue to rise, in my view, more spiritually. I was following some of the news regarding the election, and I recall a time that a journalist, and he was kind of a surrogate for candidate Clinton, Secretary Clinton, and he decided that what he would do, that he was going to go to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And it was in the heart of individuals who were supporting Donald Trump. Because he wanted to understand their perspective. And as we were talking about during this series, that part of our work is seek to understand rather than try to be understood, rather than pose our viewpoint on another person. And he learned a few things, and I learned a few things from watching it. Because what he found out, and he actually was in a living room with a diverse party of people, and he discovered that these individuals felt that they were marginalized, that people were not listening to them. The government was not responding to their needs. That their jobs in manufacturing were leaving, and the establishment just wasn't connecting with them, regardless of what political party they were associated with. And so they decided they would vote for somebody they thought would just bring a Molotov cocktail to Washington and just blow the whole thing up and start over, so to speak. I think by this candidate that was running, he kind of stoked a lot of flames, a lot of isms, to bring the shadow to the light. And when we become aware of that world, the world of appearance that comes to surface in our face, when we begin to be totally one with it, we begin to see and create a new world of possibilities. But of course, we don't jump right there. There is one caveat that we must go through. Doesn't happen right away, because this has been distressing for a lot of people, even no matter who they voted for. I mean, there's some people who are okay with the outcome, but they're kind of distressed about what's going on now with the sense of division and the strife that's going on. I think before we get to that essential point of having something transformed, we have to fully honor our feelings that's surrounding this event. I think this is particularly so who are distressed over the results. Only after we let our feelings fully surface can we begin to shine the light on them and the meaning behind them. And with that light, we can see them for what they are and address them accordingly. So it's okay to be distressed. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be pissed off. It's okay to have grief. It's okay to be distraught, disillusioned, maybe even a little depressed, whatever the case may be. We have to be totally okay with our feelings. We can never bypass that stage. But once we complete the process, I don't know if it's ever completely complete, because things come and go. They ebb and flow. But during that time, we can use the practice that we've been employing during this series to observe whatever comes up. Notice it. Don't fight it. Let it be. And eventually, it will let us be, so we can be free to move to new possibilities. You know, just as an aside, sometimes when things rise up in our external world, it's done in order for us to break out of any complacency, so that goes out of the window. You know, for many folks, if it had gone the other day, they would have just kept sleeping. Nothing would have changed. Stuff would have remained under the rug, so to speak. And we would not see the world of potential without those evolutionary triggers coming before us. But now they have come to the light for those who are holding the high watch. I was speaking to one individual who was particularly distressed. A person was telling me they didn't want to see a world of stop and frisk. They didn't want to see a world of other or as the enemy. They didn't want to see a world in which there were literal or virtual borders, creating a sense of separation between people. They didn't want to see a world of incarceration or mass incarceration under the guise of law and order. And I say, if that is the case, then we must ask the question, what kind of world do we want to live in? I don't think any of us wants to live in a world of strife or separation between people. We believe in a sense of oneness, that we're interconnected on a soul level, on a spiritual level. Assuming this is so, then we must ask, what is it that we or I must do to create a world of new possibilities? What is my assignment to help bring about that world? I believe that we exist for a time like this, to be a possibility for a world that works for the highest and best of everyone. But in order for us to do that, we can't be reactionaries, as Pema tells us, but responders to the situation. And the practices that we've been talking about helps us with this. As responders, we're aware. We're aware that we have a choice from a myriad of possibilities. But if we're merely reacting, then we're not aware, and we don't have a choice. I think with a choice, we can effectively put together or use another practice that we've been talking about in this Faith in Action series and work. And I think part of our assignment is to bring about that world that we really want. I think one of the things we can do is make sure that the words that we use and the actions that we take are in alignment with the world that we want to see and what God sees when we're at our highest and best. And not words or actions that pollute the energy sphere. It's not always easy to do. That's why we have to do the work to be responders rather than reactionaries. We don't want to hurl words that are vile, that does no one or nothing any good. And as we noted, one of the commitments of the Buddhist teachings that Pema covered in the book was one of compassion, where we don't close down to others, even those we do not like, even those we do not agree with us. And I believe this election is allowing us to embrace and have compassion for those who oppose our viewpoint. Now, initially, the human mind, the ego mind, the surface mind would say, oh, no, they definitely wrong. But this spiritual work is tough work. But we're called to do it. We've asked the Spirit of God to use us, to make us an instrument. Because there's no God coming back to do or say or solve anything for us. God sent us. We must keep rising. And I think we'll look back and realize that maybe this was the best thing that ever could have happened to lift us higher and help us see what is possible. So this is a wonderful time to address this stuff that has risen as a result of these evolutionary triggers. An opportunity to bring forth healing. As a result of the election, some people need their own healing, whether they like the outcome or did not like the outcome and are in a funk, or they like the outcome, but they're feeling a little stressed out over the aftermath of it all. You know, one of my research assistants who's been at work sent me some information. When I say research assistant, I mean someone who sends me something over the internet that they think I could use on Sunday. And I was sent a link on a NPR Science Friday program, podcast. It actually was sent by Jeff Hoy, our former board president. And in there, they were talking about a number of people experiencing what they call post-election stress disorder, which is a real thing. And the expert that was on the show at the time was talking about there's a lot of distrust, and that people don't know who to trust. And it reminded me of a colleague of mine, a minister. She's in the Midwest, and she's a minority female and a minister in a red state. She went to the doctor's office, and she was looking around all the people, and she was wondering herself, now, can I trust these folks around here? But eventually she started talking to them, and felt it was okay, everything was good. But the study that this expert presented said that there's something called social mistrust. And they presented a question to a group of people and asked them, do you agree with the statement that most people can be trusted? And they found out if you have a high level of social mistrust, that it leads to poor health and all kinds of ailments in life. But if you have a high level of social trust, it links to higher well-being. And that social distrust can alter our immune system, change our brain function, and leads to everything we don't want, from depression to heart disease. And that social distrust, and particularly toxic this election time, because the stress of the election is changing the person at a cellular level. And the interview asked this expert, well, how do we get rid of this? And she said, you're not going to. It's simply a signal of something that we care about is at stake. But there are all kinds of ways that we can have positive responses to this stress. That can be part of positive action that can inspire us to change, inspire us to grow, inspire us to connect with the others. I think one way to change the stress response to more productive response is to actually believe that whoever we feel threatened by can change. And believe that the situation can change. I was reading something that Oprah Winfrey was saying after this election. And she was one of the individuals who soundly criticized Donald Trump and called him a demagogue. But she said that when President-elect met with President Obama, it gave her hope. To hear him say he had some respect for him. Felt that maybe he had reached a moment he actually was humbled by the experience of being elected president. Probably has something to do to the realization that literally the weight of the world is on him now. That has a way of changing how you see things. You know, Oprah got a few mean tweets as a result of seemingly being a traitor to the cause of the opposition. But I think it's an example of how we can have a positive response to a seemingly stressful situation. And as she was seeing the possibility that someone can change, that the situation can change, it can get better. You know, it's all about our own practice where we are to bring the same kind of energy to our world. You know, each week we've been taking a few moments just to be present, not judge. And then from that presence to be able to move into the world with a better agenda. So let's take a moment to continue our own practice right where we are. We've been doing that for the last few weeks. For those who are new today, we just take a couple moments to focus on our breathing, focus on our breath, to be here now. And if any thoughts come up, feelings come up, we observe them. Don't judge them, don't label them. We simply let them be and let them go. So let's take some time to focus on our breathing now. Just focus on your breath. Thought comes up, feelings come up, come back to the moment of focus on the breath. This will help us become present, to be responders, rather than reactionaries to what's happening in our world. I think if we look at the aftermath of this election, the appearances show division. One commentator noted that it seems like America does not recognize its true oneness. One half of the country is at odds with the other half. We know that that sense of separation never has the final word, and we can drop the storyline, as Pema talks about, and create a brand new story rather than react from the current appearances. Those who love the outcome of the election can do their part to hold the new administration accountable to the promise of unifying all the people. As hard as it may be to do, we need not rail against the fact that Donald Trump was elected. Rather, we pray for his success to promote the greater good. We don't want them to fail. So I like to say it's like wanting a pilot to not successfully fly the plane that we're all passengers in. And it's tough work. For those who may be distraught over the outcome of the election, it is the opportunity to embrace the difficult work of supporting his success to bring about unity. And for many, this may seem beyond the realm of possible, but I take these words from Howard Thurman, who was a mentor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., that may have been some help. And he said, we must love the person where they are, but treat them as if they are where they can be. I got an email from the principal of the school that my son attends, and he was sending out to all the parents. And in his email, he said he noted that this week has been a tumultuous week for the nation, the school, and the community. And he was pointing out how the students had modeled respectful discourse throughout the entire campaign season. Yet he noted there was much work to be done, and that our work is not done. For some in our community, leaving home and coming to school strikes a chord of fear. Women and girls, Latinos, African Americans, indigenous people, religious minorities, the LGBTQ community, immigrants have all been made to feel in some way vulnerable in this time. And he said our student body and the broader community includes children from all of these categories of social identity, and many inhabit more than one. And he quoted from a book written by James Baldwin. It was written in 1963, and it was entitled Fire Next Time. I had not read James Baldwin since I was in high school, but it brought back memories of what a great writer he was, an insightful person he was. And he writes these words. He says that one must say yes to life and embrace it wherever it is found. He says it is found in terrible places. The sea rises, the light fails, lovers cling to each other, and children cling to us. The moment we cease to hold each other, the moment we break faith with one another, the sea engulfs us and the light goes out. The new president and Congress pending, there will be things people will disagree on. But we want our disagreement to be done strategically, without spewing out rancor, enmity toward one another. We can heed the commitment that Pema referred to in the text to cultivate the right speaking and refrain from harmful words. This is a low vibration that does not benefit anyone. After her defeat, Hillary Clinton gave a powerful, magnificent, and unifying speech. Donald Trump was gracious. President Obama, of course, was wise. And I think it's an invitation to all of us, to America, the world, to build upon that so that we can live beautifully in this time of uncertainty and change. Peace and blessings to you. Each week we've been reading our affirmation statement to embody consciousness for the week. So I believe it will be going up on the screen. It is there now. So let us read our affirmation for the week together. I commit to living beautifully with heartache and joy, success and failure, instability and change. I realize my awakening is your awakening. And so it is. And let us prepare for our love offering to support the work of Spiritual Life Center, to support the work of many nonprofits that we tithe to throughout the community, knowing that we're living in a time where what we are doing, the work that we're about, is more needed than ever. And so we're supporting the opportunity for those to grow, develop, and unfold and make a difference in our world. So let's say our offertory blessing together. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate. Thank you, God.
A few weeks ago, my dear friend Carol Dalzer took me to San Francisco to see the Broadway production of Carole King's life called Beautiful. And thank you, Carol. So, to you, as timely a message as ever.
You got to get up every morning with a smile on your face and show the world all the love in your heart. And people gonna treat you better. You're gonna find, yes you will, that you're beautiful as you feel, as you feel. Waiting at the station with the workday wind blowing, I've got nothing to do but watch the passers-by. Mirrored on their faces, I see frustration growing, and they don't seem sure why. You got to get up every morning with a smile on your face and show the world all the love in your heart. And people gonna treat you better. You're gonna find, yes you will, that you're beautiful as you feel, as you feel. Yeah! For the sadness in a world where tears are just a lullaby. If there's any answer, maybe love can save the madness, maybe not. Oh, but we can only try. Oh, you got to get up every morning with a smile on your face and show the world all the love in your heart. And people gonna treat you better. You're gonna find, yes you will, that you're beautiful as you feel. Oh, you got to get up every morning, put a great big smile on your face, 'cause you're a part, yes you are a part. You are part of the human race. Yes, and you are beautiful. You know that you are beautiful. You're beautiful as you feel. As you feel. You know you're beautiful as you feel. Beautiful as you feel.
You're as beautiful as you feel, and I have to tell you, you also look marvelous. We bless these tithes and offerings, knowing they're going to bless the givers and receivers to support the work of this community to infinity and beyond. Thank you, God. Amen. And with that, let us join in and sing our peace song. The love of God enfolds us.
The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you.
The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us.
The Lord lift up the countenance upon you and grant you peace.
Wherever we are, God is.
Amen. Amen.
And all is swell. Peace and blessings to you, and live beautifully. If you're going to hang around at 12:30 to talk, we can do that.